Today we're reviewing... Okay, let's start again. Today we're reviewing... Okay, let's start another time. Today we're reviewing Still Life, a 2005 adventure game by Microids that...
Why? Did you freeze? I know that happens sometimes, even to the best.
Okay, I get that the game is old, and it probably doesn't like Windows 10 as much as Windows 10 likes it. But it set me up for yet another round of frustration for a game that is the sequel to the 2002 game Post Mortem. That also was a very frustrating game, but even if I put the Windows 10 compatibility issues to one side, seeing as that wouldn't have been an issue when it was released, unfortunately, this sequel still has a number of flaws that were present in the first game, and then adds some more.
It looks like I'm gonna have to do this the hard way.
The game starts you off in the present day, or rather, what present day would have been like back in the mid-2000s, and puts you into the shoes, or rather boots, of FBI agent Victoria McPherson, the granddaughter of the legendary private detective Gustav McPherson.
I'm Gustav McPherson. I'm a...
Yes, a private detective.
Who you'll also get to play as in alternate levels.
That's understandable.
It's not long before you're off investigating a brutal murder, but before that there's another brutal crime. But this one is the developer's fault. As you can see with the laughing policeman, the animations when characters talk are downright terrible, with their lips moving like a ventriloquist's dummy. It gets worse though, with some animation downright creepy. You'll often end up with either Victoria or Gus stuck on the spot, and it requires a click or two of the mouse to unstick them. There's also a weird bug where I wouldn't be able to move to another area, and I only discovered a fix by chance as I went to record the footage, and found that the Alt and F9 combination I use for GeForce Experience also enabled the scene to continue.
Of course I will. Was there really any doubt?
I did consider some sort of connection with that, but then I also noticed that Shift and Tab to use the Steam overlay also enabled me to continue. It's quite possible that they were interfering with the game, but even when I disabled Steam overlay, I still got the issue. Even when they are mostly working, they aren't that great, and just minor glitches often help to kill the immersiveness of the game. There's even a scene where you're talking to a coachman, and he uses the same gestures over and over. I think I spent more time looking at him than concentrating on what he was saying. Thankfully, the main story is quite interesting, and presents both Victoria and Gus working in their own respective times on a very similar collection of murders. The transition between characters is presented in such a way that Victoria will sometimes find something relating to Gus or the murders, and then that will lead to a cutscene, before allowing you to play as Gus in the past.
Thanks. I got what I needed to continue.
Eventually, you'll learn a bit more through Gus's investigations, and at key points, the game will then transition back to Victoria in the present day. The game is mostly linear, but you can at least move between different areas via a map screen. If you're not sure where to go, you can check through chapter notes via the menu. Like the first game, Still Life continues with a very adult theme, often with gruesome scenes and a large amount of swearing.
Hell yeah!
But whilst the core of the game is quite dark, it does attempt to use lighter moments too.
Shh! Hey, listen. Did you hear that?
What? It's probably a movie.
No, I don't think so. Call Tate.
Oh, crap. I will. Later.
Oh my God, Miller, you were like, absolutely right. It's like a movie.
The main characters are likeable enough,
You are truly annoying.
and the support characters can also be fun too.
But how can you tell when a client is weird?
Trust me, I can tell.
Voice acting is acceptable for the era that the game was made.
Why, hello there. Nice night for a walk, isn't it?
It's a little too German expressionist for my taste, but I guess one could appreciate it.
and the sounds and music used create an appropriately dark atmosphere at times. Unlike the previous game, which lost my interest halfway through, this game at least stays entertaining to the end, and without the cutscene crashes, the poor animations and movement bugs, it isn't a bad game overall.
You make me laugh!
But then, just like the previous game, the developers had to go and introduce some really annoying puzzles and gameplay sequences. Admittedly, some puzzles, particularly early on in the game, were relatively logical, such as one where I was measuring out buckets of water to make a pump work, or one where I needed to move some numbered levers to power up a machine, and one where I had to move parts of a key before I could release it. Combining items could also be logical, such as when I combined two items to make a sort of grappling hook, and when I used some of Victoria's FBI equipment to read some hidden lettering. There are also some decent general gameplay sequences, such as when you spill some coffee while playing as Victoria so that you can distract a cleaner and take some keys. But then it falls into the usual adventure game traps of having to pixel hunt for items, such as when you have to compare a photo with the actual scene to spot objects, which was difficult with the pixelated graphics. And again, when I had to find a knife near a toolbox. Even on a decent sized monitor, it was difficult to spot the item, again due to the graphics being quite low resolution. The graphics also didn't help much when I had to do a tedious sliding square puzzle, although the choice of picture probably wasn't the greatest for this type of task.
I always look stupid in pictures, especially this one.
Most of the issues with the puzzles seem to be to do with their design though, such as one where I easily picked the right objects for the right statue, but the game wanted them to be done in a specific order. Then there was a very frustrating lockpicking puzzle, where I had correctly worked out that I had to alternate which tools I used as I moved along the barrel of the lock, but then the latter part of the process just turned into a confusing mess, and I'd have to keep restarting from scratch. A cookie cooking puzzle that replaced ingredients with cryptic lines had me completely baffled, as did another puzzle that had numbers hidden in paintings and other objects that related to code for an elevator.
I truly miss your brother. He was the smart one.
Even worse is when the game requires you to do things very quickly, such as with an annoying section using a security access card. You get a very small amount of time after swiping the card to key in a 5-digit number and then press the OK key before it times you out.
I think I might have screwed up.
But the biggest and most frustrating part of the game is near the end, where you have to make use of a bomb disposal robot to dodge through some lasers that are only made visible once you highlight them with a fire extinguisher, which was a bit odd in itself. The robot is moved via pressing arrow keys on screen with your mouse, but not every click seemed to get captured when trying to change direction quickly. And because the lasers are constantly moving around, with a few that overlap, it's easy to get caught out. And each time you do, you're sent all the way back to the very start. It took me ages to complete, both to work out the right timings and also coordinate the movement buttons.
You do know I'm a field agent, right? I think this is a little out of my league.
Overall, despite the annoying gameplay elements and bugs, I feel that I enjoyed the game more than Post Mortem. Positives from the game include decent dialogue, being able to save anywhere, likeable characters with acceptable models, and a more engaging story. The cinematic cutscenes look quite good too, apart from when they were crashing.
I just heard on the news. Another one?
Yes, another one.
But then there are the downsides. Those crashes often happened nearly every time there was a longer cutscene, and because they're completely unskippable, unlike the in-game dialogue sections, it meant I had to view some of them several times before I was able to continue.
I really don't want to do that again.
There are various fixes that can be tried, such as setting compatibility modes, editing the registry, and verifying the game files in Steam, but no fix lasted forever.
Sorry about giving you such a wonderful job, but we really don't have a choice.
It's not a problem, Miss McPherson.
While the character models looked alright, the animations for them are pretty poor, and the graphics themselves are quite low resolution, even for 2005.
This chair design will never catch on.
Even the end credits look like a wobbly mess. And finally, the puzzles and general gameplay is a bit of a mixed bag, with plenty of room for improvement.
McPherson, you have a lot of explaining to do.
If you can play this game on an older PC and avoid the issues of trying to get it to work with a modern Windows operating system, then you're left with a game that, while flawed, is interesting enough to at least deserve a playthrough.
It's worth a try.
At 12 hours long, it's an acceptable length. It doesn't feel like it has too much filler.
Happy I could be of service.
I'm certainly keen to play the next in the series, Still Life 2. For now though, that's all for this video. Thank you for watching, and please leave a comment below. Goodbye.
Great. You take care of yourself. Goodbye, my friend.
Goodbye. Oh, yeah. Goodbye. The clock is ticking.
Yeah, I'm going.